Our case this week starts in Surrey, British Columbia, Canada. The date is December 28th, 1964, when Robert Dennis Blair Adams was born into this world. His mother's name is Sandra Adams, and he actually has a brother named Tom Welland. By 1995, and at the age of 31, he has found himself working for his stepfather in Frankfurt, Germany. So Blair is just enjoying his life in Germany, working for his stepfather, when in November of 1995, he meets a German woman at a party and they begin dating. Blair had been known to become aggressive or confrontational. He also had a small history with alcohol and substance abuse. So by the summer of 1996, Blair had moved back to Canada and started a new job as a construction site foreman. He had started actually attending Alcoholics Anonymous, or AA, but as time went on, basically by the dead middle of summer in 1996 around June, people began to notice that Blair was growing uncharacteristically careless at work. But none of this is really a huge deal. It's not like Blair's work was slipping enough that he needed to be fired, or that all of his friends and family couldn't be around him anymore because he stopped attending AA. And then randomly on July 5th, 1996, Blair Adams withdrew all of his savings from his bank and emptied out his safe deposit box that had more than $6,000 in cash in it.
All right.
Blair then told his mother the same day that he emptied all of this out that something was bothering him. At this point, Blair's not talking to a lot of people in his life, but most don't even know that something is off. On July 7th, 1996, Blair gets into his Chevrolet Chevette and drives it to the Canadian-American border in hopes of boarding a ferry from Victoria to Seattle. U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement denied Blair entry into the United States of America. Blair spends the next couple of days trying to get over, even attempting at one point to cross on foot.
No way.
And during these sporadic attempts, Blair is still stuck in Canada and just doing odd, unexplainable things. On July 8th, Blair drives to his workplace and randomly quits. And it was on this day that he also tried to purchase a round-trip ticket to Germany at a travel service for around $1,700. After this, Blair drove to a friend's house and asked his friend to help take him to the border, but it was late at this point, and so his friend turned him down. It was by dawn of the next day, July 9th, that Blair was spotted wandering around near the border on foot. So the Pacific Highway Border Crossing authorities noted that Blair actually had scratches all over his hands and feet, and they wrote that in the report. They ended up actually taking him into custody because he matched the description of a suspect who had stolen a blue car in Vancouver near where he was trying to cross earlier that day. Later on in the case, one of Blair's friends would actually come forward and inform authorities that she had seen Blair driving a blue car that day that it was stolen. After being released from custody, Blair drives his own Chevrolet Chevette to the Vancouver International Airport and parks it. He then makes his way to the rental car counter and rents a Nissan Altima. He uses this Altima to drive to the border and once again attempts to cross over into America. Blair Adams finally succeeded on July 9th.
Oh, wow.
Literally the same day that he was taken into custody for suspicion of theft.
Okay.
And immediately drives his rented Nissan to the Seattle airport, where he attempts to buy an overnight one-way ticket to Washington, D.C. for $800. So after flying during the night, Blair arrives at the Dulles International Airport at 5 a.m. on Wednesday, July 10th, 1996, and rents a white Toyota Camry and begins a 7-hour drive to Knoxville, Tennessee around 6:45 a.m.
Where is this guy going?
Around 10:15 a.m., while on his way to Knoxville, Tennessee, Blair backs his rental car into another man's vehicle near Zion Crossroads on U.S. Highway 250 in Troy, Virginia. Around 5:30 p.m. that day, Blair arrived in Knoxville, Tennessee and stopped at a gas station on Strawberry Plains Pike. A gas station clerk actually ended up calling an interstate repair service driver named Gerald Sapp after Blair was claiming that once he got out of his car and got gas, he couldn't get his car started again. The reason Blair couldn't get his wrecked and rented Toyota Camry to start was because he was using the key to his rented Nissan Altima that he left back at the Seattle airport. But Blair wouldn't listen listen to him. Blair insisted that the Nissan key was all he had and that this whole time he had been using that Nissan key to drive this car. Gerald Sapp arranged for a tow truck to come pick up the Camry because they can't get started because they don't have the key. Gerald actually drives Blair himself to a Fairfield Inn nearby to stay the night because now he doesn't have a car. Blair can be seen on surveillance camera at the Fairfield Inn, pacing in and out of the hotel lobby 5 times. After Tika handed Blair the key to his hotel room, Blair grabbed it, put it in his pocket, and instead of walking to the elevators, he walked out the front doors of the hotel and never came back inside. And Blair Adams was never seen alive again that we know of. So the next day, July 11th, 1996, around 7 a.m., 2 construction workers stopped at their work site of the under construction hotel when they noticed something on the ground in the abandoned parking lot. Blair Adams was discovered dead, laying in the middle of the parking lot with his belongings scattered around him. He noted that the victim, who we know is Blair, but they don't, had his pants pulled down around his ankles. So Blair's shoes were off and laying near him, and his socks were stuffed inside of his shoes. And the missing Camry car key that landed him at the Fairfield Hotel in the first place because he stated that he couldn't find it. Police also discovered a fanny pack with nearly 5 ounces of gold bars was laying on the ground, unzipped and untouched, along with all of the cash.
That makes 0 sense.
Right.
0 sense.
So the medical examiner estimated the time of death was around 3:30 a.m. This time of death actually matches a nearby worker who was either a security guard or a construction worker, and this worker claimed to have heard a scream around that time in the middle of the night, but thought that it belonged to a woman. The autopsy performed by the University of Tennessee Medical Center revealed that Blair had many cuts and abrasions on his body. So Blair Adams' cause of death was ruled as sepsis that was a result of a perforation in his stomach from a violent blow or repeated hitting that caused a rupture in his stomach lining. But there was a wound to his forehead, like blunt force, that police deterred was caused by a crowbar or a club.
Okay.
Now, neither weapon was found near the scene, but because it was a construction area, police are like, well, a weapon like that might have been on site and easy to grab or find. There was a news piece done by David Davenport, and he claimed that there was some DNA evidence recovered from the hair, but there's been no profile match so far. After July 12th, the day after he's found, 1996, Blair's mother, Sandra, originally speculated that Blair was going to the United States to watch the 1996 Summer Olympics that were happening in Atlanta. But after his death, Sandra was the one who reported that Blair had been acting strangely before he was leaving and had stopped attending AA. So what happened between the time of Blair leaving the Fairfield Inn and then him dying around 3:30 a.m.? We don't know. But here is what investigators figure out while trying to answer that exact question. A composite sketch of a man had actually been made in Blair's case in the beginning. The sketch came about from 2 women who claimed to have witnessed Blair speaking to this man outside of the Cracker Barrel restaurant in Knoxville. The assumption is maybe Blair walked out of the hotel to go and find dinner and ended up at the Cracker Barrel down the street where 2 women saw him talking to a man. So during his autopsy, I told you that they didn't find any drugs or alcohol in his system, but they had found in his stomach contents some lettuce, some meat, and some shrimp. Another option police had to consider was that the area off the highway where Blair was found also served as a truck stop and attracted individuals with a very transient lifestyle. Blair's actions of changing flights and travel plans last minute, changing cars multiple times, and checking into a hotel that he wasn't actually staying at definitely could imply that he believed someone was after him. Either way, the case is still unsolved and there's still a lot of information that we don't have. So if you do know anything, please contact the number that I said earlier, and that is the case of Blair Adams.